Hey everybody, how you all doing? Is the sound coming through okay? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound. Just had a few issues with the stream. I haven't been able to log into, it's taking me ages to log into live StreamYard for some reason. Maybe it's like what Steve was saying, they're doing some maintenance work on the site. Nice one. Yeah, I'm glad you're here actually, Richie, because we're going to discuss your comment in a minute. You made some really good points, and it does need to be discussed. And I think people do need to talk about what you mentioned in your comment a lot more. But we'll get to that in a bit, because obviously in the last half an hour or so, I think it was last half an hour. Well, it's half an hour since I've seen it anyway. Tommy Robinson has announced that he is officially backing Advanced UK and has joined the party. Now, I've got some issues with that. This might be controversial today. I've got some issues with this, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I'll bring his tweet up on screen that he posted. Like I said, I've got some issues with this. I can see problems arising ahead for obvious reasons. And obviously, the people that are behind Advanced UK are going to be, really, really pleased about this news. But it's not really, if you look at the bigger picture. Don't worry, we'll get to your comment, Richie. We're going to see if I can find it on here. Because I think this is a misstep by Tommy in this instant. But hear me out. Listen to my reasoning behind this. So when it loads up, we'll discuss it. I'm going to load Richard's comment. Right, so this is what he put. Our future together. I am voting, and I am voting. I'm joining Advance UK. So I can't see it. It's like the light in here today is awful. I'm sick and tired of being politically homeless. I'm sick of the establishment lies of Farage. I'm putting my faith in Ben Habib and his new political party, Advanced UK. Join us here. It's like saying us, which is new. Give this a share to everyone you know. Now, to me, Tommy's greatest strength was as a unifying force. That's his greatest strength. Tommy has this ability to bring people together from different backgrounds, from different political ideologies, and bring these people together into one cohesive unit. By openly coming out and not only endorsing, but actually joining the party, he's killed that, in my opinion. Because now all those people from all the different factions are just going to see him as Advanced UK. That's the danger. So all the hard work he's done to build unity, to build a movement, could be jeopardized by this misstep. In my opinion, Tommy, privately, fair enough, could vote Advance UK. That's every individual's right, what they do. But to come out publicly and endorse, but not only endorse, but get behind a political party is a big mistake, in my opinion. It really is. That's how I think of things. It's a huge mistake. It's a massive mistake. And I don't think this is down to Tommy. I've been discussing with people behind the scenes that certain individuals, certain people have been advising Tommy in the background. You'll probably know who I'm talking about. People that did a runner when things got tough. People who are only bothered about power and status in the background. The worm tongues whispering in Tommy's ear about certain things. And it's not Tommy's fault, because Tommy's a very trusting person. He sees the good in everybody. It's a strength. It's also a weakness. But Tommy's movement is a broad church. Well, it was a broad church. It encompassed everybody. It was a huge tent that no matter what your political leaning was, no matter what faction you were part of, you could always get behind the Tommy Robinson movement because it didn't care about where you were politically. It catered to everybody from all walks of life. Everybody could get behind the Tommy Robinson banner. That's changed. This could really hurt Tommy if he's not careful. At least he's helping to break up momentum of reform. He's highlighting how bad reform are. He could have done that without actually joining the advanced UK party. He could do that on his own. He doesn't need to join a political party to do that. You know, it would have been great if instead of doing this, Tommy could have done a documentary on the Reform Party and showing just how corrupt and establishment they are. That would have been a better thing to do. Tommy Robinson's power comes from his journalism. It comes from his political neutrality. That's what gives him power. I don't think this will work out well in many ways. Yep. I don't think he'll lose his connection to the people. No, it depends how deep down the rabbit hole he goes with endorsing the Advance Party. If he just says, "Yeah, I've joined them," and it's just an endorsement, like he did with the Reform Party at the last year before the general election, which was a huge mistake, by the way. People once again advising him to endorse the Reform Party for an exchange in favours. We all heard these people admit it. They admitted it in their live streams that they've been doing backdoor deals with the Reform Party. And then once the Reform Party got what it wanted, they slammed the door in Tommy's face. Now, I'm not going to say Ben Habib's going to do that. But my issue is the people in the background pulling the strings, whispering into Tommy's ear. They're the issue that I have. A long time ago, I saw Active Patriot. And I've said this before, and I didn't understand it until I started to see the people behind the scenes with Tommy. When Active Patriot said, "I like what Tommy Robinson is, I like what Tommy Robinson does. I'm not so keen on the people, some of the people that are behind him." And I'll just let you read into that whatever you like. People who did a run at urging Tommy to do certain stuff, are we talking about Paul Thorpe here? Yes, Jack, we're talking about Paul Thorpe. We are. Because this is obviously coming from that direction, isn't it? It's blatantly obvious where this is coming from. Reform UK hate us, but at least Advance UK and UKIP don't. I'm not even going to go into the party political side of things. You know, everybody knows my feelings on this. Whatever party you vote for, whatever party you get behind, any political solution isn't coming for 4 years. And that's the reality of the situation. We've been through this before. There'll be no country left in 4 years. The laws being put in place now will be used by the right to full effect when they get in. Wake up, people. Protests all over the country right now. Yeah, it's amazing how the Union flag gets censored, isn't it, every time? Yes, Jack, but if you say the name 3 times, you'll summon up the devil. Yes. I'm not going to get into this whole issue with this certain individual, again, I've been through it before. You can believe whatever you want about this man. I don't trust him. I've met people like him before, and he's giving off a real bad vibe. There's something untoward and not quite right. Everything that surrounds this guy, I can't go into detail, but something's off about him. I just pick up on that. It's a vibe, and I'm not the only one. A lot of people do. Do you not think the rise of Corbyn might swing a snap election? Yeah, but you think, right, even if there was a snap election tomorrow, say that Keir Starmer says, right, we're having a general election in November, even in that amount of time, do you really think that any of these smaller parties, including Advanced, are ready to go into Parliament and do what they need to do? In fact, you know what? Keir Starmer calling a snap election would probably do more damage now than it would in 4 years, because nobody would be ready. Exactly, trust your gut, and it served me well. My gut, I've just got this, the kind of profession that I've been in. I can be in a room with people and I can suss them out. I can immediately know when something's off about somebody. I just do. It's like a radar. It's like an early warning system. And with Paul Thorpe, my radar goes into overtime. There's something not quite right there. Not convinced by Tommy's new move, but it's early days yet. However, I understand his reasoning. Farage is disingenuous, and he may be part of the ongoing plot to split the national vote. The thing is, right, I'll keep saying this. Any political solution is 4 years away. That's a given. We know with how accelerated the process is becoming with the communists running the country, that by the time 4 years comes around, there'll be nothing left of this country. Nothing. There'll be nothing left. So any political party that's going to get in is going to be picking up the pieces. And I honestly think, I don't think any of these parties, I don't think Advanced UK, I don't think the Reform Party is going to form a majority at the next general election. They're not. Because the vote is going to be split in so many different ways now, with all the different factions on the right. There's no chance of one party getting a massive majority. It's just not going to happen. So people are putting all their faith in political parties and the general election in 4 years, when you might not even get what you want. That's my issue. Anyway, we're going to get off the subject of certain individuals. We're going to talk about Richie's comment, because he made some good points, and we're going to discuss that. But to put a line under this was a massive mistake by Tommy. I think he's made a huge mistake in becoming political. It's a bad move, in my opinion. Just my opinion. I think it's a bad move. But like Richie says, we'll wait and see what happens. But I don't think it's a good move. But we'll have a look at Richie's comment. I've got to call it out when I see something wrong. I'm not just going to go along with the flow because I like Tommy. I like Tommy. I do. But he can make mistakes. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And I think he's put his trust in the wrong people in this instant when they've advised him to do this. I think it's a bad move. Right, we'll get Richard's comment up. So we're going to go through this and have a look at it. I'm going to have to enlarge some of these screenshots because sometimes just can't read. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I actually enlarged this one as much as I could. And it's like, wow, yeah, I don't think I'm actually going to be able to read that. It's way too small. Right, I'm going to try something. Richie, do you want to come into the live stream and actually chat? We'll see if we can chat that way. Maybe you can read out your comment. Do you want to come? Just let me know if you want to come in. I'll drop the link. I'm only asking for Richie to come in, by the way, so he can read out his comment, because that is tiny. I enlarged it, but it's tiny. I can't read that. I think I'm going to have to get my eyes tested and get glasses. But that is way too small, that to read. I did enlarge it, but obviously it's just come up really small on here. Well, see if we can get rid of this comment, see if it comes up bigger. Be nice if we could have like a little enlargement tool on the screen so you could enlarge things. All right, Richie, that's all right. But I'll leave it on the screen and I'll try and paraphrase. I'll get up on my phone and try and read it off my phone. But I'll leave it on the screen for people to read on there. Try and read it off of here. It might be best reading it off my phone, actually. But yeah, I understand, mate. Yeah, that's perfectly okay. All right, let's try and get the comments up and try and read it. Here we go. Right. Even this is small on my phone. All right, let's do this. Right, so he says this. You always say exactly how it is. Much respect. Agree 100%. He's talking about my video from today. If you've not watched it, go and watch it. It's my morning walk video when it's about, the title is The Future of This Country. Go and watch it if you've not watched it. Here in the UK, we pass the stage of political solution many years ago. There's always been an insidious agenda by the political establishment to split the nationalist vote. Since the times of the National Front, the British movement, the EDL, and other far-right parties. I have to disagree with you, Richie, right? The EDL isn't a far-right party. It's not a far-right party. If you actually look at the EDL back in the day, it was, I would say it was centre-right to a point centre-left, because its message, the EDL's message, was black and white unite. That's not a message or a slogan you would attach to any far-right group. I associate the far-right, the real far-right, with being the ethno-nationalists, the people who love the Austrian painter. That's who I associate the so-called far-right with. And people could argue that they're an offshoot of the far left, because there can be an argument to be made that communism and National Socialism are just two offshoots of the same ideology, just going about it in a different way. So I'll let people decide in the comments what they want to think about that. But yeah. Oh yeah, basically these people, National Front, Combat 18, Combat 88, those sort of groups, they are far right. If you look at Patriotic Alternative, far right, you know, they actually had a guy, I think it was in Skegness, and they had a guy marching in front of a legitimate protest. It was locals protesting, and their their guy was cosplaying Adolf Hitler. That's these people. They exist, and it's like what Tommy Robinson said. They look like they're a huge group online. It's like the far left. They look like a huge group online, both extremes. But when it comes down to it, when it comes out to real world applications and look at their group, they're tiny. The actual far right couldn't fill a medium-sized car park if they all got together in this country. They're tiny, absolutely tiny fringe element. The only reason the far left can get a huge crowd together is because they bus people in from all over the country. If they had to go to individual protests around the country where people are protesting, they would be a tiny minority. Stand up to racism in Chesterfield, tiny minority. Chesterfield is the biggest town in Derbyshire, and they're a tiny minority within the population. It's basically the tyranny of the minority. That's what they are. They're tiny. Anyway, I'll carry on. So the EDL, not a far right organisation at all. It was infiltrated by the far right, and that's why Tom Robinson disbanded it and shut it down, and it splintered off and fractured and became far right under different names. But he disbanded it. He saw what was happening, and that's why he disbanded it way back in 2010. That's why it went the way that it did. Anyway, so yeah, not a far right party. So Richie goes on to say this: a couple of questions that never seem to get discussed in depth. Who actually is doing this to the UK and Europe? So what he means by that is obviously the current situation, the managed decline of the country. So a lot of people would say it's Keir Starmer. It's not Keir Starmer. Some would say it's the civil service, because Keir Starmer is just a puppet of the civil service. It's not even the civil service. The civil service are Keir Starmer's master and the masters of everybody in Parliament, but they're not the ones ultimately who are pulling the strings. There are other people. I mean, we could. This again, once again, it's a broad church of people that are doing this. You can't just pin it down to one single group of people. It's a lot of different people. So, for the sake of this argument, I'm just going to call them the deep state. And when I say deep state, that means I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about George Soros. I'm talking about the World Economic Forum. I'm talking about big business lobbying government to put through certain legislation. That's what I'm talking about when I say the deep state. It's not like I'm just referring to one group of people. I'm referring to them all when I say the deep state, because there's just far too many people in the background to talk about them all. It's actually lots of different factions and groups of people that are managing the decline of the West. For what reason? I don't know. Some say it's to usher in a new age of authoritarianism via technocratical communism, like what we see in China right now. Some people believe that's the end goal, is to install worldwide communism everywhere. Why are they doing this? Like I said, I don't know. Maybe it's to usher in communism everywhere around the world. And what is the end game again? You know, who knows? Well, that's what I'm talking about with the deep state, Nathan. World Economic Forum, BlackRock, New World Order. I would say BlackRock and all those big companies are all part of the World Economic Forum. So you could like encompass them all in Davos. But I like to use the deep state because that's the best way to refer to them. They're just one big homogenous group of people, if you know what I mean. You can't narrow it down to one single individual that is doing all this. It's what has been in 19th Brazil, a self-perpetuating scheme, exactly. And a lot of people think this has just happened. It's not. This has been going on for decades. If during the Brexit, I was researching the EU, and before it was the EU, it was the EEC, and even on the inception of the EEC, it was always intended to become the EU. That was its intention. It was never about it being a trading bloc. Its intention was always to become the EEC. Basically, the people in this country who voted in the referendum on the EEC were lied to about its true nature, even back then. So it's been going on for a very long time. Probably from the late 50s right up until present day. that they've been planning this. I'll carry on with this comment. What have these self-serving politicians and their families been offered when the shit hits the fan? And it will sooner or later. Obviously, the corporate elites are behind this onslaught on why the people too. When you consider today's TV and billboard advertising, when will the tipping point be reached in the UK? I think we're quite close to that right now. The tipping point is really, really close. Very close. I mean, some of these political analysts have been estimating, it's going to, in the next 10 years, we're probably going to have civil war. No, I reckon within a couple of years. I think it's as close as that. And I think the collapse of the economy in this country is even closer than that. If the economy collapses, then that could trigger a civil war, because you're going to have a lot of desperate people out there. I will have a look at your comment in a minute, Steve. Obviously, the corporate elite behind the onslaught of my, sort of that. When our taxes will not cover the cost of the NHS, providing housing and paying welfare benefits for this mass importation of foreigners, let alone for our own people. The reckless politicians have set us all and our country on a course to oblivion. So I say again, what's in it for them and who's holding the purse strings? Well, a lot of people point to George Soros, but he's definitely involved with it. George Soros is definitely involved with it. The World Economic Forum, like I said, it's coming from a lot of different people, but they've all got the same agenda: the total destruction of Western civilization. They want to destroy it for whatever reason. I don't know. Some believe it's to usher in this new world order, this one world government, this what is it in China? I forget what it's called. What is it called in China? The social credit system. Authoritarianism. Basically, everything in 1984, the book, and every authoritarian movie you've ever seen about a dystopian future where the government is in control. Basically that. People said to me after Brexit, why don't you tell us the nature of the ECEU? My answer was, I did, you didn't listen. I felt like Cassandra, but without the frock. We don't know how close the economic collapse. We could be pulled down if Russia goes bankrupt. Yep. I think we're pretty close though, Steve. I think we've reached a point. I think it will be in the next few months where we reach a point where we're spending money faster than we're making it. I think some people have actually said we're at that point now. We're spending money faster than we can gain it through taxes. And once that becomes overrun, once we get to a point where what we're spending completely outweighs what we're bringing in, we're in real trouble. This is why they brought that legislation in to stop people withdrawing money over £800. They can put a stop on it for 4 days. That's to stop a run on the banks, because when the system starts to collapse, people will pull their money out of the banking system in fear that they're going to lose everything. That's what they'll do. And so these little bits of legislation that have just been slipped in under the radar are to stop people doing that. As somebody pointed out the other day, for a long time, when your money goes into the bank, it's not your money anymore. Legally, it's your money, but the bank has total control over it. It's a fiction. Money doesn't exist. It only exists as digital information. There's no physical bank vault anymore with money in a bank vault. They'll have some cash on site in banks, but the reality is that money doesn't exist. It's just an illusion. It's just another form of control. You can't survive unless you have money to buy things. You can't buy things unless you abide by society's rules. You get a job, you pay tax. It's a form of control. It's just another form of serfdom, if you really think about it. Does it really give you freedom? Does earning money, really give you the freedom that you think it does? Or does it tie you to the state, makes you controlled by the state? Yeah, fair enough. You can go off grid and you can live your life without money, but it's a hard life, isn't it? And the government will make it hard for you to do it. This is what I love, because I used to get a lot of people coming. I should cover it. There's a video made about this a long time ago, and this is something I always bring up, because you get these people saying you're just a slave to the system, and that they say, this tax is theft, which it is. It's legalized theft, and then they'll come to my videos and say, you're just as much a normie. You're controlled. And they say you're a part of the system. You can't see you're a part of the system. But then I ask these people and I say to them, well, where's your alternative? Why aren't you living the alternative lifestyle? If you think that everything in society is slavery, which in my opinion it is, if you're enslaved to the system to own a home, to own a car, but then they won't build their own society without all of that. That they'll call people out for living under this society, but they won't go and build their own to parallel it. That's my issue. It's all right calling out the system, but what are you doing to replace it? Nothing. You're just calling it out. So you're just as much of a slave to the system as anybody else. That's what I would say to those people, until they can come to my videos and say, look, we've created this parallel society where we don't have money, where we're not enslaved to the state, where we're governed differently. The minute they can do that is the minute, I'll listen to them. But until they do, they're just people trying to think they're superior by calling out the system and saying, you are all slaves. You don't know you're slaves. You're all part of the matrix. You're still plugged in. It's like, okay, fair enough. Where's your alternative? Where's the parallel society that you've built because you've realized that this present system is slavery? Where's the opposed system? Right, I'm just going to say this, right? Tommy shouldn't join any political party. He should just keep it private, keep his politics private, what he does. It's up to him which party he votes for. It's up to him which party he supports. To me, Tommy's true power is unifying people. That's his true power. Getting everybody together under one banner. That's what's brought him. That's why his marches in London are so big, is because he wasn't political, because he represented everybody, regardless of what they believe politically. If you go and pick a side in the fight, you're no longer unifying, you're dividing, because this could backfire. I'm not saying that it will. I'm saying it could backfire. That's all I'm saying on that. That's what worries me. There are people in the background playing Game of Thrones with power who really don't give a shit about this country, in my opinion. All they care about is power and popularity. They're at their own, I don't know, they've got their own agenda. And we've seen it countless times before. There are always people within society that leech off of others' fame because they can't achieve it themselves. That's what they do. They jump on a bandwagon. Some of these people, we didn't even know about them a year ago. They've come from nowhere. They've jumped on a bandwagon and now they're basking in the fame of others' achievements and pushing themselves. That's the way I see it. I see straight through them because I've seen these people before. My thoughts exactly. And no doubt this live stream is probably going to get botted now because I've noticed that every time I talk about certain people, bot accounts turn up. And I've had it. Danny Roscoe's had it. Anybody that is critical of these people, they get bot accounts coming to their channels. Because I've looked into them. They never respond. They never respond back. I've responded back to countless numbers of them. They never respond. They're bots. But it had to be said. I don't think Tom has made a good decision in this at all. We'll go back to it. I don't think he's made a good decision about this at all. This could divide rather than unite. No, exactly, Steve. There are people emerging that I've never even heard of that have suddenly jumped to fame, jumping on bandwagons. I forgot who, but a YouTuber said Tommy's liability. Knocking people out in a train station, I have sort of agree with him being, yeah, but the thing is, right, and I showed this video, I'm totally behind Tommy 100% defending himself because he has to. If you don't know Tommy's situation, he has countless Osmond warnings out. And I'm sure Steve will explain what Osmond warning is. I'll explain it here, but I'm sure Steve can go into more detail. Basically, an Osmond warning is when the police have reliable intelligence that is a serious threat to your life. It's not like some off-the-cuff nut job on YouTube just sending you a random death threat. This is when they have concrete intelligence that people are out there plotting to kill you. I didn't know about this, but I found this out the other day that Tommy actually had a terrorist plot against him. They were going to try and blow him up at one of his events. They were actively trying to kill him. That was one of his Osmond warnings. He's had loads. He's had loads. His wife's had loads. His family have had loads of Osmond warnings. So when a random nut job comes up to you on a train or in a train station, probably masked up with a hood up, and you tell them to get out of your face countless times and they don't do it with their hands in the pockets, then I'm sorry, but I'm going to do the same thing that Tommy did. They're going down on the floor and I'm getting out of there. I don't blame him whatsoever. He's got credible threats against his life. So, yeah, he has a right to defend himself under the law. He has a right to self-defense, to use reasonable force in the situation against the threat that threatens him. And I would support anybody that did that in this current situation in this country. You have a right to defend yourself. Me personally, I said this on the last live stream, that I believe that Tommy should walk around with a body cam on. He should have a body cam on. That when he goes if he's on his own and he's got to go to these interviews and he's got to walk through train stations, he should have a body cam on and press that body cam on in between his appointments. That way, whatever situation he's in, he can go hands-free if he needs to. Whatever situation he's in, he's covered his back because he's got video record of what's actually happened. That's a smart move. I'm sure that from now on, he's probably going to have security with him. That would be my advice. Get security with you to take care of the situation. You need some sort of protection now. Walking around London on his own isn't really an option anymore. It really isn't. Too many people out there want to kill him. So that's all I've got to say on that. I kind of get your sentiment, but you're not fully understanding the situation. Yeah, really, in London, travelling alone when you've got Osmond warnings out against you isn't great. Surely Tommy should know by now that we no longer past the political solution to this mess. I've said it in countless videos, Richie. You heard me this morning. Any political solution is 4 years away. Now, can anybody honestly in the chat say to me that in 4 years there'll be anything left of this country? Do you honestly believe that we have 4 years? Because the clock is ticking, and the clock is ticking really fast. Look at how fast the Labour Party is accelerating things now. Free speech in this country is all but gone. We don't have free speech in this country anymore. We don't have democracy in this country anymore. Keir Starmer is using this time, this 4 years, to rig the next general election in his favour. He's giving the vote to the 16-year-olds for a reason. Yeah, there may be lots of young British people out there that aren't going to vote for Keir Starmer, but he's relying on the Muslim vote. He's given the 16-year-olds the right to vote, so he knows there'll be an increase in the Muslim bloc voting at the time. I think he's making a huge mistake because he thinks that those Muslims are going to vote for him. They're not. They're going to vote for the new up-and-coming Muslim parties. They're going to vote for Jeremy Corbyn's party. That's who they're going to vote for. All these independent Muslims we see in Parliament that we see coming to power. Look at the Green Party. The Green Party has been totally infiltrated by radical Islam. That's what we're going to see rising in the 2029 general election. It's not going to be Advance UK or Reform. It's going to be these new Islamic parties. There will be nothing left of this country in 4 years. By the time Keir Starmer's time is up, there'll be nothing left. There really won't. So this is why a lot of people are coming to the conclusion that a political solution just isn't on the cards. And like I said earlier in the live stream, even if there was, say, an early general election, say within 2 years, say 2 years' time, there's a general election, there are still no parties capable of getting into power and doing what we need them to do. There aren't. Reform UK is just the Tory Party 2.0 and they haven't got a clue. They haven't got policy. The policy flip-flops and changes at a whim of Farage. He wakes up one morning and decides that the policy's completely changed. That's the issue. Reform are not the answer. Advance UK, unfortunately, are not the answer. They're just not going to get enough support. Advance UK will not get enough support, even with the backing of Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson backed the Reform Party before the last general election. Yeah, he gave them a boost, and a lot of what he did is why they managed to get 5 MPs in Parliament. But it was only 5 MPs. It wasn't enough to push people to vote. It was a low turnout in the general election, and the next general election is going to be an even lower turnout because everybody can see that these parties don't deliver what they want them to deliver. They lie. Look at the Reform Party. How many U-turns has it done? How many promises has it broken already? And it's not even in power yet. All the little smaller parties haven't got a chance. They just don't have enough support because the Reform Party and Advanced UK will suck up support. So the only support these little parties will have will be tiny tribalistic people voting for them. That's it. I know people don't want to hear this, but like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for people. This is how I see the world. This is my point, Daz, right, regarding Ben Habib. He's a reluctant leader. He didn't want to lead Advanced UK. He wanted Rupert Lowe to do it. So has he fully embraced being a leader, or is he reluctant? Doesn't he really want to do it? Because if his heart's not in it, then it won't be a success. He won't have that drive to make it a success. He might say all the right things. He might go on the right political programs and put his point across, but your heart has to be in it. It really does. You have to want to do it. You have to want to be the leader to drive forward. And Ben Habib didn't want to be the leader moving forward. He wanted Rupert Lowe to do it. I think Ben Habib just wanted to be like a chairman figure within the party. And the question is, over the next few years, is can Ben Habib step up to the plate and bring the fire that we need? That's going to be interesting. I used to make video after video about Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. I don't even bother anymore now. They're irrelevant. I think anybody that votes for the Reform Party now needs the head looking at. Okay, you're saying I'm wrong. How am I wrong? Don't just say I'm wrong. Give an argument. Why am I wrong? Because we'll discuss it. So look at this comment, right? As discussed the other day, I'm coming to the view that the way to beat the big parties is not to form a small one. It's some sort of coalition or group of independent people working together. Again, it's like, it's still 4 years away though, isn't it? And what you're suggesting could even be longer. It could be not this general election, it could be the next general election. And we're running out of time. We didn't have, people say this is our last hope at the next general election. It's not. Our last hope was at the last general election. I really believe that could be the only way. It's just a complete rejection of the system completely. And like I said in my video this morning, this is going to be an ongoing process. The system we have now is we're going to limp on with it until people actually decide it's time to change. And that's going to happen over the next 100 to 200 years. We're going to move away from the system of government because it just doesn't work. And like I said, I don't know how that's going to happen, whether it's going to be is it going to be peaceful revolution like we're seeing at the minute, where people are going out and protesting, where we force the government to do what is right. I don't think it will, because Keir Starmer doesn't care. He doesn't care about our opinions. He will just double down on everything that he's doing. Some people have said it's going to be armed conflict via civil war. And I don't think it will be the Brits that start civil war. I don't think it's going to start. It's not. People have got this notion that it's going to be Patriots versus Starmer. I don't think it's going to start like that. I think it's going to be some foreign conflict that we import into this country that will kick things off. That's how it's going to kick off. We're importing lots of Shia and Sunni Muslims into this country, and historically they hate each other. So if we start to see an increase in Shia and Muslim colonies, because that's what they'll be, because they won't mingle amongst each other, they hate each other with a passion. So that's where your basis is for any civil war. It's a Muslim turf war, which will kick off in this country, which will cause native Brit casualties, which will then force us into a conflict as well. You're talking about sectarian, religious, cultural violence. That's what will happen. A lot of people thinking it's going to be like the Roundheads and the Cavaliers, where, you know, there's going to be like 200 to 300,000 patriots marching down to London to take back London. It's not going to happen. Won't happen. It's going to start local. It'll be local in areas where the immigration has reached levels where local Brits are a minority. You've already seen it in Leicestershire, tribal violence in Birmingham between different factions and different cultures that should never mix together. And this is what is going to ignite everything, because the native Brits are going to have enough. They're going to say, why the hell have we got foreign wars taking place in our own country? That's where it's going to stem from. That's what's going to happen. The thing is, they'll unite against a common enemy. But once that common enemy has been defeated, it's game on. They'll be at each other's throats. I'll tell you a story. I was once doing, I used to do nights security work at a well-known sandwich production factory. And there was they had to have loads of security on that night in the canteen. Because in the canteen, this is where all the different factions used to meet for their lunch breaks and stuff like that. And we used to have to split up the Sunni and Shia Muslims that were attacking each other in the canteen. And they were going full at it. They were like smashing each other in the faces with the trays. They were going at each other with knives. That's the reality. These two groups hate each other, but they will unite. We've seen instances of it happening. The Iranian regime helping and training ISIS. It's like the enemy of mine enemy is my friend sort of thing in that situation. But the minute that enemy has been eliminated, they're back to old rivals again. That's how they work. Yeah, and from what I can gather, right, you'll probably know this more than I can. I don't know the specific text of, I think it's either Quran or Hadith, that it's basically one line in the Quran scripture that they disagree on. I think it had something to do with, was it about something about Muhammad not being recognized or being given a certain amount of land by some other warlord or something? And the Sunni and the Shias disagree over this piece of text in the Quran, or I think, is it the Quran or Hadith? I'm not sure. It's a long time since I've read it. But that's basically the formation of their difference. It's over one line of text. And because of that, countless Muslims have died over the centuries, millions of them, because of a disagreement over a line in the text. That's how radical these people are. Right, okay. Maybe you can explain it, Steve. What the hell is that doing up on screen now? Go away. So I'm just getting loads of things popping up on the screen. That's it. It's gone. It's the ascendancy of Ali. Right, okay. Right, so let's clear this up, because this is another good question, right? Why else the invasion of Christian soils, right? This is like the old Crusades, when there was this great surge forward of Muslim conquest that took Spain and Europe. And this is why we had the Crusades, because we were taking back lands that the Muslims had conquered. That's why we were pushing back. The Crusades were a response to Muslim expansionism. That's what the Crusades were. It was a religious pushback of taking back Christian lands that Islam had conquered. That's why we had the Crusades. And we're having the same thing again, but in modern times. But instead of a conquering army, they're sending them abroad and into other lands, Christian lands, as refugees in inverted commas. And they set up colonies, because they are colonies. They're not integrated. They refuse to integrate. When they get to a certain level, they start demanding special treatment from the authorities, and our liberal wets take tolerance to a whole new level. They're tolerant of everything. There's no line drawn in tolerance. They just give them whatever they want because they want to be seen as tolerant to these people. And Islam takes full advantage of this. It takes advantage of our kindness and then uses it against us, to a point when they have grown in number, they take over. That's what they're doing. They know they couldn't do a modern day crusade or a modern day conquest of Western territories, because they would be bombed back into the Stone Age. So they've worked out other means to do it. You simply send over your forces like a Trojan horse via the back door and simply outbreed the native populations and then take them over. That's exactly what's happening. That's what's happening. Yep. So it's really all about Islamic expression, expansionism. Exactly. That's why they're coming to our lands. Now, the reason the globalists are allowing it or instigating it is because these people will be easily controlled. Look at you've got a population that you can easily control, that can make you lots of money, and they work cheaply as well. Yeah. Look at how mosques control their followers. They tell them literally which way to vote, and they vote that way, because these people literally believe that the Quran is the literal word of God, and that imams and other holy men are speaking or interpreting the true word of Muhammad. So they believe them and trust them 100%. It's a cult. That's what's happening. I totally agree with you. It's a takeover. Muslims, like part is so-called the Muslims religion. It's an invasion. It's an invasion. It's definitely an invasion. I like Sargon's take on it. He says 100 years ago they would have been on camels carrying swords in a sultan's army. Exactly. They still would today. But like I said, any political solution is 4 years away. And if we have a snap general election, that's even worse, because anybody that's preparing to get into government has reduced time. So theoretically, if Keir Starmer wanted to do a scorched earth maximum damage to this country, if he feels he can no longer carry on, calling a general election would wreck this country because nobody would be ready. Advanced wouldn't be ready. The Reform Party would be a joke. Could you imagine some kind of weird coalition between the Tories, Liberal Democrats, and Reform Party? It would be a disaster. Nobody would be able to form a majority. You'd have a government, and it would just collapse. Let's have a look at. Do you think Nick Tenko and UKIP would be in number 10 if Starmer did an election out? No. Not a chance, Jack. Nick has said himself that he's having trouble finding candidates. He says he needs to train up 650 candidates to get them into Parliament. And to do that, you're not looking at the next general election. You're looking at maybe the one after that, or maybe even the one after that, before UKIP is even ready for Parliament, let alone being elected. Unfortunately, I like Nick Tenkoni. I like what he's got to say. But he's got no chance of getting into Parliament. No chance, unfortunately. The right is just too divided. It's just way too divided. The political right is an absolute mess. It literally can't unify on anything. Sikhs and Hindus hate Muslims as much as Sunnis and Shias hate one another. Exactly. And you're looking at a massive sectarian divide in this country. I doubt this will be sorted out at the ballot box. No. Did anybody hear about the reports that Keir Starmer was interfering in elections in Europe? So not only was he sending Labour MP, was it Labour advisors to America to help Kamala Harris campaign, he was also sending these people into Europe, into European elections, to influence elections over there. I forget who it was that said that, we've got evidence that they were attempting election interference over there. So don't believe for 1 second that Keir Starmer wouldn't think about rigging our own general election here in this country. Look at the way Labour cheats, the revelations about postal vote fraud that Labour was carrying out during the next general election. What Jack's got to say. The Tories, Lib Dems, Reform Coalition would be dangerous. They would want to attack 3 million Jews like Hitler, and that's it. Yeah. I'll say this. I don't think the Tories have got any chance of winning anything, but if they want to be in the running for anything, they need to get rid of Kemi Badenoch because she's shocking. She doesn't have what it takes to be a leader of a party. Sikhs and Hindus tend to make that far better Brits as a rule, though. Yeah, I agree. That's my experience. Anyway, yeah, they do integrate. That they do actually bring their culture, but they also embrace our culture as well. It's a mingling of the two cultures. See you, Lisa. Thanks for coming along. It was 100 Labour advisors in the US, and it was Alice Weidel of ADF that accused Starmer of interference in the German election. Yeah, there's another one as well, though, Steve. Something else has come out lately. I think it's one of the trying to think. It's one of the countries around Lithuania, somewhere like that. where there was a recent election and they're saying, yeah, there was interference. Yeah, Kemi Bennock's a joke. And this is what I mean when I was talking about petitions the other day. If we actually had a half-decent opposition, they would be looking at these petitions that people are filling out and the way the government is ignoring them and using that as political ammunition to bash them. If you look at Prime Minister's question times, right, has Keir Starmer really had a really good bashing by the opposition? You know, they should be tearing him apart with everything that he's doing to the country. There should have been a vote of no confidence in him. That's the one, Georgia. Right, yeah, Georgia. They should be tearing him apart for his actions in government because he's an absolute joke. He's weak at every opportunity. But this is what I say when Parliament's a pantomime. It's controlled. He doesn't answer half the questions at Prime Minister's question time, which he should be legally obliged to do. He should answer all questions, not just dismiss them. Yeah, I watch AI audits. I watch Jupiter sometimes. I like AI audits though because he gets his boots on the ground. He gets out there, does what needs to be done, which is what this channel is going to be doing soon. Watch this space. I've got some intelligence from sources that I've got about certain areas, which is going to be pretty cool. But I'm keeping it close to my chest at this point. Right, guys, we're over the hour mark. I think I've said all I've got to say. I'm going to leave it here because people don't watch the live streams that are over an hour. Unfortunate, but it's true. So thanks for coming along. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like the content, the channel. Don't forget to go and check me out on Twitter, Dark Knight DA. It's coming up now on the screen. It's going past. Rumble, Vindicator Vengeance, Twitter/X at Dark Knight DA. Go check me out on there. I've got 600 followers on Twitter now, so I'm going up in followers on there as well. So go check me out. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming along. Like I said, the channel will be nothing without you guys that watch the videos and, you know, interact. This is why I like interacting with you guys. It's important because as much as I need to vent, you guys need to vent as well. You need to get your opinions out there and talk and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good. It's good, this. I like doing this. So thanks for coming along. It's been brilliant. Have a good Saturday afternoon. Yeah, it's Saturday. I forget what day it is. Saturday afternoon. Have a good day, everybody. And I shall see you all in the next video. This is Vindicator signing off.